Squid Game became Netflix's most-watched series worldwide soon after its 2021 debut. Netflix quickly signaled it saw Squid Game as more than a one-off hit. In early 2022, co-CEO Ted Sarandos confirmed a second season was coming and declared the Squid Game universe has just begun, implying plans for spin-offs or expansions. The show's Korean creator Hwang Dong-hyuk also built the concept with global potential in mind. He noted that the mysterious VIP guests in season 1 were meant to show games are being played in different parts of the world, seeding the idea that the Squid Game could expand to other countries. Netflix officially renewed Squid Game for a long-awaited season 2, and even greenlit a third and final season slated for 2025. A letter from Hwang explained the story would conclude with season 3 to complete protagonist Gi-hun's arc. However, ending the main Korean series doesn't mean the end of Squid Game as a franchise. Hwang has stressed that although his original series is wrapping up, season 3 is not going to be the end of the Squid Game universe. Netflix has a plan for more, he said, and they won't be abandoning such a valuable concept. One major expansion in the works is a US-set adaptation of Squid Game. Rumors of an English-language version began swirling in 2023. Notably, entertainment reporter Jeff Snyder hinted on a podcast that Netflix was courting David Fincher to produce and direct an American take on Squid Game. In late 2024, these rumors solidified when Deadline reported that acclaimed filmmaker David Fincher was indeed in talks with Netflix to develop a Squid Game series set in the US. According to Deadline's sources, Fincher is eyeing this project as his next big endeavor under his Netflix deal. Importantly, this would be a scripted spin-off, Squid Game's first, distinct from the reality show. It's expected to be a TV series and would most likely be set in the US. As of early 2025, Netflix has not formally announced the US adaptation, and executives have been cautious in public. In February 2024, Ted Sarandos was asked in Seoul about Fincher's rumored US remake, and he downplayed it as just a rumor. Industry watchers interpreted this as Netflix holding off on confirmation until plans are concrete, possibly waiting until after season 3 airs. Behind the scenes, however, development is clearly underway. Fincher has reportedly been working on the project for over 2 years. He quietly started developing a Squid Game spin-off only a few months after season 1's release in 2021, even halting another project to focus on it. There are even reports that British screenwriter Dennis Kelly is attached to write the script for the US series. All signs point to Netflix preparing this spin-off behind closed doors, despite public no-comment responses. In fact, Netflix insiders have internally dubbed the project Squid Game America in discussions, though it's unclear if that will be the final title. Hwang Dong-hyuk, the creator of Squid Game, has given his blessing to the idea of international spin-offs. Speaking about the Fincher news, Hwang is more excited than reserved. He explained that from the outset, he designed Squid Game to be an international story that could be expanded to different cultures in different parts of the world. The inclusion of foreign VIP characters was a deliberate hint that similar death game competitions exist globally. Far from feeling protective over his creation, Hwang said it would be a huge honor to have other creators make their own versions in the Squid Game universe. I feel very grateful and happy as a creator to see that happen, he told Radio Times, adding that it aligns with his initial intentions for the series. He even joked that maybe he'll be involved in these expansions as an advisor or co-creator, leaving the door open for his consulting on the US adaptation. Industry experts generally agree that an American adaptation is a logical next step given the show's unprecedented success. Netflix's early universe comments and aggressive trademarking of Squid Game merchandise signaled to analysts that the company would seek to maximize the IP's value. In other words, Squid Game is too valuable a franchise to stop at 3 seasons of one show. The involvement of a heavyweight like David Fincher also indicates Netflix's seriousness. Fincher has a strong track record with Netflix, and his interest shows confidence in the concept. As one report quipped, Netflix is not going to throw this idea away. Indeed, Hwang himself said, "I know Netflix has a plan. They are not going to throw this idea away," referring to the US spin-off discussions. All this insider buzz points to a high likelihood that a Squid Game American adaptation will move forward once timing is right. While official details are scarce, speculation is rampant about how a US-set Squid Game might differ from the Korean original. Commentators and fans have floated a number of possibilities. Obviously, the survival game would take place in America, or a Western locale, instead of Korea. This opens the door to explore uniquely American social horrors. Observers expect themes like student loan debt, medical bankruptcy, predatory capitalism, and corporate greed could be highlighted as the driving desperation for contestants. Just as the original reflected South Korea's inequality and debt crisis, a US version might tackle the American nightmares of staggering college debt or unaffordable healthcare. Hwang himself indicated that different countries' versions should address their own societal problems through the game's lens. The deadly game games in Squid Game are based on childhood playground games familiar to Korean viewers. An American edition would likely swap in local children's games or schoolyard challenges that resonate with Western audiences. For example, we might see morbid twists on games like Tag, Dodgeball, Simon Says, or Hopscotch, though the format would remain. The core battle royale structure should be similar, but with a fresh cultural coat of paint. A US series would presumably feature a new cast of characters drawn from American life, potentially with a very diverse ensemble to mirror the melting pot demographics. Industry chatter proposes the spin-off will have all new characters rather than any overlap with the Korean storyline. There's potential for cameos or crossovers. Hwang joked he might even appear as a VIP, but on the whole, it would stand alone. Don't expect a simple translated copy. Rather, it's likely an expansion of the universe showing how the sinister competition operates on American soil. With David Fincher at the helm, many anticipate a tone that may lean even darker or more psychological. Fincher is known for his meticulous, tense filmmaking style. Analysts speculate that his take on Squid Game could highlight mind games over gore, with a slow-burn, suspenseful atmosphere. As one commentary noted, Fincher might turn the contest into a stage where power isn't won, it's sold to the highest bidder, satirizing American capitalism. Visually and thematically, it could feel a bit different, more like a Zodiac or Gone Girl thriller than a neon-colored K-drama, while still delivering the shock and social commentary that defines Squid Game. Crucially, Hwang has said any international version should retain the core spirit, ordinary people in extreme debt risking their lives in childhood games, even as the details adapt to local culture. The idea of remaking a non-English mega-hit for English-speaking audiences is not new, and past examples give a sense of the feasibility and approach for Squid Game. America. Netflix has already proven willing to create localized versions of its global hits. The Spanish phenomenon La Casa de Papel, Money Heist, was adapted into a Korean series in 2022 titled Money Heist Korea, Joint Economic Area. Rather than inventing a new plot, the Korean remake closely followed the original storyline, a daring hostage heist, but transplanted it into a unified Korea setting with Korean actors. The aim was to breathe new life into a familiar storyline for a new market. This cross-cultural remake shows Netflix's playbook. They kept the core premise that audiences loved, added a local geopolitical twist, and reached a whole new audience. Money Heist. Korea demonstrated that a well-executed adaptation can succeed. It drew significant viewership in Asia on Netflix. This precedent bodes well for a Squid Game US edition, as Netflix has experience franchising non-English originals. On the flip side, there are examples of hit Korean series adapted for the American market by traditional studios. The Good Doctor was a 2013 Korean medical drama that ABC remade in English in 2017, starring Freddie Highmore. It became a major hit in the US, running for multiple seasons as one of ABC's top-rated dramas. This successful remake, which kept the original's premise of an autistic doctor, but tailored storylines to American healthcare settings, proved that US audiences will embrace a show rooted in a Korean concept when it's well localized. Squid Game is obviously a different genre, but the principle stands. A compelling story can cross languages and cultures with the right adaptation. Many other international TV remakes underscore the potential. The UK's The Office was remade into a long-running US sitcom juggernaut. Israel's Prisoners of War became the Emmy-winning Homeland in America, and South Korea itself has remade US series for Korean audiences. In each case, the producers had to adjust humor, pacing, or cultural details to fit the new locale. Not every remake succeeds. Some fall flat if they don't capture the original magic, but the track record of format adaptations is strong. Given Squid Game's broad appeal, its themes of inequality and survival resonated globally, industry experts believe it can translate effectively into an American context as long as it's handled with care and creativity rather than as a shallow copy. All evidence indicates that Netflix is far from done with Squid Game. Season 3 will cap the Korean saga, but the franchise is evolving into a multifaceted Squid Game universe. An American adaptation is in development, spearheaded by David Fincher, though Netflix is holding formal announcements until the time is right. Official statements from Netflix and the show's creator affirm that more Squid Game content is on the horizon, extending the series' satirical look at human desperation into new countries and formats. In the meantime, fans can already see the expansion in motion through reality competitions and games, and can speculate how a US version might put a distinctly American twist on the brutal games. As Ted Sarandos hinted, the Squid Game phenomenon isn't ending, it's just begun. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. If you like my videos, please leave a like and share with your friends. There are a lot of good videos coming. Subscribe so you don't miss anything.